do this. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the VOD Squad, the show that we talk about streaming devices and content and hardware and all the streaming things. I'm Clyde. Today I am joined by Matthew Ross.
Hey Clyde.
Michael Aston.
Hello everybody.
And Jimmy Travel is back.
Hey,
hey, Jimmy's back.
And by the way, that was an excellent Captain Kirk impression that you just did there, Claude.
All right, why, thank you. That was purely coincidental. How's everybody doing?
It's the last week of school, which means
you guys are still in school?
We're still in school. This is the last week. That means that this is crazy week because we have assemblies and speakers and things that need to be done before the end of school, and inventories to be done and people to be taken care of because they're leaving the district. And this is one of always the week before the big day is always hard for school. So the week before school starts, the week before school ends, weeks before a break, during a break can be busy too. But I'm going to be relaxing next week.
Well, I was going to say, so what are you going to be doing for the next couple months?
Making Windows 10 with the Creators Update installed correctly with MDT, Microsoft Deployment Toolkit 2013, because right now it doesn't want to work. It still works with the old version, but not with the new version. That's one of my current things. Making certain things. A lot of that kind of...
So you still have to go into the school every day? Every day.
I get a lot done during the summer. This is when I get to actually take servers down, and I get to, reboot things in the middle of the day without telling anybody, and change out network switches, do fun things like that.
Rock on.
I'm excited.
And then Jimmy, you're still head first into that project? Do you guys come into?
Actually. Yeah, getting ready to cut over, actually. Actually, this weekend will be the cut-over weekend. Finally get that one put to bed. After that, then it's just, fingers crossed, and people will still be able to register their cars and get driver's license and that kind of thing, right?
Yay, still get to pay the government for the right to drive. Hooray.
Yeah.
No, not to drive, just to use their roads.
Technicality, come on. Also, you can drive all you want if you're on private. He's right. It's just about using the roads. You can do all you want on the private property.
But the minute you leave your driveway.
Yep.
Yeah, I did a fair amount of driving between the ages of 7 and 15, no license, no registration, tooling all over the place.
Yep.
But that's a story for another show. Why don't we get into some news?
Okay, well, we have a little bit of news this week. We've started off with Hulu is now considered the second most used streaming service, right behind Netflix. Comstor came out and went ahead and gave us the scores for all the various streaming services that were available online, and looks like Hulu has jumped ahead of Amazon with probably with their newest showing that's and their new service that's been turned on, to now become the number 2 behind Netflix, which is amazing because for a while there it seemed like Hulu was just kind of backburnering everything.
And that surprises me because I have considered them number 2 for years.
Yeah. So have I. And it makes you wonder, what's the sudden jump up to the official second place, right?
I don't know how Amazon would have been. I don't know, but that.
I mean, I think that this comes down to the way ComScore is measuring this for us and providing these numbers. I mean, Amazon Prime is probably more owned or subscribed to than Netflix, just because of all of the Prime users that get it, that maybe never even use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's probably also partly why the number is so low, like the percentage, because there's probably a ton of people that use it 0 to 1 or 2 hours a week versus people that actually use it as a primary service and consume, 30 hours a week or so. And so that's going to bring Amazon Prime's number artificially lower because of the fact that there are people that maybe use it just to watch one movie on a rare occasion when they see it, something that interests them while they're actually surfing to purchase something. So I think that tells you a lot about the way the services are used. It doesn't necessarily tell you it doesn't tell you at all how many subscribers there are to each service, and potentially, how profitable or beneficial they are to the companies, how much other, it's not a perfect measurement is what I'm getting at. In fact, it's quite far from it when you take into consideration Amazon Prime being what it is. I think it does tell you a lot about the fact that Hulu and Netflix are consumed in a very similar way. In fact, Hulu getting more hours from cord cutters than Netflix does,
right,
makes a lot of sense, actually, because cord cutters are trying to replace those over-the-air shows to a large extent and those other shows that they normally would be watching on cable TV. Mm-hmm. And so when you have Netflix, you're only watching the stuff that's not current, right? Yeah. So you're going to, if you are supplementing your current cable subscription with Netflix, then you are probably not consuming any of those shows, or you're consuming all of your current shows on cable, and then you're watching Netflix to binge. And so you're probably going to binge less. If you're paying for cable, you're probably paying for it to be able to consume specific shows.
Yeah.
Apart from the Netflix original.
Oh, is that
yes.
true?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's what Netflix is, why so many people are dual subscribers. You combine Netflix originals and the back catalog, and what I'm saying is that they're mostly watching all of their current shows on cable, of course, with the exception of the Netflix originals. But, right. It's just a different kind of beast, whereas Hulu has current shows, and people that are cable subscribers and Hulu users probably, well, at least for me, I always went to Hulu as a backup for when I missed something or I forgot to DVR it or something like that, mm-hmm. And supplement, or just why bother with the DVR when I've got it on Hulu?
Right.
So I watched more Hulu than I did cable when I had Hulu and cable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that it's the reason why Amazon, in my mind, was number 2 is because it's been all the buzz recently. I mean, everybody, when you talk about streaming services, it's Amazon services. It's Netflix versus Amazon. It seems like those are the 2 big behemoths that have been around. And it seemed like for at least a long time, it felt like that Hulu was just there. It was a solid third pillar that wasn't doing anything. And it felt like it was perhaps getting a little bit further in the background. Now we have Hulu Live. Now we have an actually a premium show on it that people want to go watch with I can't remember the name of it. The Handmaid's Tale. I almost said the Bridemaid's Tale. Yeah. It's different. But it seems like for a while there they were just sitting on their laurels, and I'm glad they're doing something. So.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before in the fact that Hulu, I didn't want to use it for a long time because I tried it when it first came out and it was horrible. We're talking like 2010, and it was bad. And then so I resisted for many years. And then finally, I was like, okay, I dig it. It wasn't until last September when I finally went commercial free that Hulu clicked, and it was like, oh, I need this, because before I was using it to supplement the shows that were recorded on my TiVo, sometimes over the air doesn't record quite right. And then I always knew, okay, well, this one's not working. I'll go to Hulu and watch it. But then after commercial free, it just ended up being, nope, I just watch it on Hulu and eventually go back and delete it off my DVR that's sitting there spinning for no reason other than this old house.
Yeah, the commercial-free Hulu was the trick for me. I mean, that was what actually got me to get rid of cable. And then after I'd been away from cable for a little while, I realized that I didn't need Hulu because I also didn't really care about watching all those shows.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, now
Although
I'm back
I
to
think
kind of cable through
it,
PlayStation View.
It sounds like I might be in the minority as far as the fact that I love all of the Hulu originals.
No, I wouldn't say you'd be in the minority. I love maybe not all of them, but I'd say most of them.
Most of them, I should say most of them. And it's they got some great stuff, and a lot of people just go, that's okay. It's awesome, and I know it, and that's all I care about.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead, Mike. You go ahead, Mike.
I think the real trick for the originals thing is that Netflix to some extent has gotten a lot of their originals to be super successful and super popular because of the names, right? Like all of the Marvel shows came in and they were Marvel cinematic shows that existed kind of in a universe that everybody was familiar with. And so that gave them a lot of gravity and attention. And then, there were a few other shows that just were tremendously well done and really excellent shows that kind of catch your attention. And Hulu's shows, while they are not, they're good. There are some really good shows there, but they're not like what I would consider game-changing or outstanding shows where you have some of those shows with some of the others, like Stranger Things, I thought was really outstanding. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of it. And then the other part of it is just the fact that it's what people are going there for. Hulu is, to a lot of people, the cable replacement. And they are consuming largely the things that they have always been watching just in Hulu instead of catching it over the air or through their cable service.
Yep. Yeah. Agree.
All right. We have a new story. Actually, it's a pair of stories here. Sling TV has got a couple updates for us, and one of them is that they're bringing in their grid guide to a lot more devices. Looks like that they're now available on Fire TV and Fire Stick players, and that means that you're going to be able to get the grid on about almost all their players now include the grid, which is something that we just talked about last week. This is your traditional guide, where you get to see where the shows are and what's coming up. And I missed it. I'm so happy to have it. I'm really hoping that this kind of thing is improved upon and continued to be used up. The other story is Sling TV also adds DVR support to a lot more of their devices. They went ahead and brought it out for they now have it for the Roku, the Fire TV, Apple TV, and they're basically also supporting the ability for you to record content on the Fox channels, which is kind of nice. When you get recorded on the Fox channels, though, you do have the problem of when it becomes available on demand, you can't watch your recording anymore. You have to watch the on-demand version, which kind of confirms to me the idea of how YouTube TV is getting their deals, where they're getting that they're conceding to the, if you got an on-demand version, let's go ahead and let you watch that instead. Which this has got to be what's going on in the background. This is probably the middle ground we're going to end up seeing for a lot of these streaming services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the grid works good. I mean, I welcome the grid. I mean, it's I can't think of a better way to do it. I mean, other people have done it, where maybe rather than going horizontal, maybe you go, vertical, in one direction or the other. But yeah, I mean, the grid, everybody's used to it. It works. So I think it's good that they bring it back.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where they said, "Hey, we got this wacky idea. We're now going to read books from down to up." And then eventually go, "Fine, people have already figured it out. We'll just do it the way you're used to."
Right.
I mean, I didn't hate the way that they had it before. I never even really thought about it until we talked about it last week. Like when I remember using the sling, the way you navigated around the boxes, it made sense. I thought it was intuitive and whatever. Either way, rock on. Go sling.
Yeah. We have one last little piece of story for the week. This week, we found out a lot of streaming stuff was happening this week. If you want to know, really be on top of it, especially if you were interested in anything politics or anything E3 related. This story comes from E3 that Sly Cooper is coming out with their own animated TV series. Now, I was never into the Sly Cooper games, but I have a friend who's like really into it. And apparently the storyline behind this is really well thought out, and it's got a lot of twists and turns, and it's the kind of game where you really get into a nice kind of detailed storyline with consequences and people, you get gangs dealing with gangs and trying to do, and it's got a little bit of humor in it, and so it looks like this might be something fun for the kids to watch.
Sly Cooper was one of those games that I kind of remember fondly. I didn't play it a whole lot, but it was just like dumb enough that I could get into it and be like, yeah, dig it. There was some silly jokes, and I think it will translate to cartoon fairly well. Especially if you're of the age that the Super Mario Brothers show that came on in the early 90s, if you enjoyed that, you were able to give that a pass, then I'm pretty sure they should be okay with this.
I think it's pretty clear that this is going to be successful because there's never been a bad video game, movie, TV show adaptation.
Well, I would say video games to cartoons have fairly regularly been successful.
Really?
Yeah. I was trying to think of some of the others.
Guess I'm missing that. The movie thing, I can't think of
adaptations
that have succeeded. So,
but that's because they tried to turn them live action.
The best video game to movie translation, I believe, was Mortal Kombat, and that was not very good.
Not Street Fighter?
No. It was so
Can I ask the ignorant question? Is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was it a game?
No,
comic book first.
Comic book first. Then cartoon, then game, and the game wasn't very good.
That's the other failure path to almost guaranteed failure is to adapt a game from a movie
or a cartoon.
Or a cartoon, because those almost always fail as well, just like movies from video games.
Dark Redeemer says he liked the Mortal Kombat cartoon. I can't say I ever saw that.
Me neither. But they did have, what was it, the Ratchet and Clank that was a game that turned into a movie. It went the other way. I have no idea if it was good.
I think they actually did a Ratchet and Clank cartoon for a while, too.
Pretty certain they did.
Yeah.
Didn't they make a Doom movie as well?
Yeah.
Oh, they did do a Doom movie, yeah.
Doom.
I never saw it.
DOOM.
Did incredibly poorly.
Never saw it.
Heard really bad things about it. I never did see it though.
I never watched it either.
I just thought about it. You guys want to know what one cartoon that made a fairly decent one video game that made a fairly decent translation into cartoons?
Into cartoons?
Pokemon.
Pac-Man.
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
So that was that a video game?
It was a trading card game, then a video game, and then cartoon.
Just so you know, it was basically all designed at the same time. Yeah. Pokemon Company is like 3 different companies: Nintendo, It's all these companies work together to make a cartoon, to make a video game, and to make the trading card game. So it was all kind of planned that way.
And also, Dark Redeemer points out Earthworm Jim, and yes, Earthworm Jim was hilarious. That was a great.
I've never watched the cartoon. I'll have to.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Sonic
that.
the Hedgehog had a good cartoon as well. Donkey Kong Country.
So I guess that they're doing it right. They're making it a cartoon and not a movie, because it would inevitably be awful if it was a movie. But apparently, cartoons work.
Well, hopefully, this is kind of the something that they get onto one of the streaming services, maybe on Netflix or a Hulu or something like that, where you can watch it as many times as you like over and over again. And that's the best way, I feel, to really consume these fun cartoons. Anyways,
right,
just go all out.
Yeah, so I'll give it a shot. I'm part of the cartoon generation. I spend most of my time watching cartoons, so yeah.
When I was a kid, cartoons only came on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And
then
I remember
they had just invented
you had
the gramophone.
an hour.
Right? You had to pay a nickel to go to the movie theater to watch the cartoon before
on the Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
No, it was
a penny for the Nickelodeon. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. For me, it was an hour after school and Saturday mornings. That was it. G.I. Joe and I know G.I. Joe was after school. I can't remember what the other after school show was. But
it was Transformers. For me, Transformers and G.I. Joe were after school.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, I know I watched...
Before school was Heathcliff and Dennis the Menace. Because I could only get halfway through the Dennis the Menace episode before I had to run to catch the bus.
Yeah, that's right. They did have some before school. My parents would never let me watch it, but they did have cartoons on in the morning, too.
Yeah, for me, it was Marvel cartoons.
Yeah.
Like the Super Friends? Kind of DC Super Friends and the Marvel?
No, but before that, Captain America, the Hulk.
Yeah, what was that?
Iron Man.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
A spider. Yeah, I hate that song. Yeah. But except when the Ramones did it, they did a pretty good job. But
yeah.
Me, I didn't watch. I mean, I watched some cartoons of different kinds, but the one that sticks in my head is after school, after a couple other things, Robotech was on, and I loved Robotech.
Yeah.
That was my jam. All right.
Well, there was one other article, wasn't there, about how Netflix has more American subscribers than cable TV?
Oh, yes, I believe there is.
I said, that sounds like something that we should probably touch on.
Yes.
Important.
It's official. Netflix is bigger than cable. Now, it's not bigger than just traditional television, but it has actually gotten more American subscribers of Netflix versus number of subscribers to cable in America. Netflix is bigger.
Now is this...
That's huge!
Is this kind of like when the Beatles in the 60s said they were bigger than Jesus and then, made a whole bunch of people mad?
Since I wasn't born in the 60s and I don't remember any of that, I don't know how big a deal that was for them to say that. I imagine it was a pretty big deal, and probably some people, especially some very religious people who, Christians, were pretty upset.
It was a big deal. It was really a big deal.
Somehow I don't think this is a big deal. I don't think there are people as devoted to the church of. I don't think they have as many people devoted to the church of the cable company.
Okay. So Ted Turner's not going to burn his Netflix subscription.
Yeah. No, but I would say that it is a warning shot over the bow to cable companies. I would say, right, that they better think of something quick here before they lose all their subscribers.
Well, I mean, part of this is a tale of Netflix's success. That's taking it to. That's taking it to be. Yeah.
He's the guy that trims my bushes.
So
that's easy for you to say.
So Netflix is getting bigger, and they're getting more subscribers, but they're not growing terribly fast. What I think we're seeing now is cable slowly eroding, cable subscription slowly eroding, as you have all of the alternative ways to consume TV. You've got your Sling TVs and your PlayStation Views, stuff like that, slowly eroding cable, and people just realizing that the value is not there. Like the value proposition is different. And then, obviously Netflix is maybe growing a little bit, but mostly staying the same while cable is declining. And
so I have a thought experiment here. Sure, Netflix is definitely getting bigger, and sure, absolutely, cable's definitely shrinking. But cable is fixed. There is no way for you to really cheat cable and say, I'm an American, and I'm in America, I'm in the United States, and I want to get cable. You don't have anybody really doing that. But I guarantee you have a certain percentage of people VPNing in and getting their American.
They should count as eyes as long as they're paying. Then the only people that Netflix has to answer to is number one, investors.
Yeah.
Number two, the partners.
Hopefully customers are in that list.
No, I'm talking as far as like VPNing. Because customers don't care as long as
they do. They want to be able to do it.
Well, no, I'm saying that I don't care if someone else is VPNing in because as long as Netflix is still giving me and the shareholders, as long as they're seeing the profits that they expect, then they don't care. The only people that care are the content owners that go, we don't want you to. They don't want you to allow that. So,
they're making money.
But I guarantee that as long as Netflix can get the money without you getting caught, they don't care.
Okay.
Yeah. The one thing that I thought was interesting is that they were showing 1 million subscribers lost to those traditional cable TV services in the first quarter. So when you're talking about 50 million, that's less than 50 million. That's over 2% a quarter of decline, which feels pretty significant to me. I mean, that's a pretty steep increase in the rate of decline of cable. Because in the past, they've basically stayed the same or stopped growing. Some minor dips. Like last year, for example, they had 120,000 users lost. That's not that many, but getting up to be almost 1% per year or per quarter, or 2% per quarter, that's a lot. So, I mean, I think it speaks to the difference, way the different generations view it as well. Because, like my parents, for example, they'll have cable forever, right? Yeah.
But my daughter will never have a cable. So
yeah, I was gonna say we're seeing the point where streaming becomes ubiquitous, where people understand. Because when people ask me, they say, "What is your show about?" And I say, "Streaming devices, content, cord cutting stuff." People actually go, "Oh, okay." My dad said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
He doesn't do it, but we're at a point now where people understand.
It's a thing.
Whereas, like, just 2 years ago, you just see that deer in the headlights look going, what? You mean, like, Netflix?
Well, I think, there's a couple of things. I think that we'll find the first time that there's some big problem, they're going to lose people. So that's something that they've got to be very conscientious about. Right now, for example, my internet has been pretty shoddy for the last couple of days. Well, that's really easy for me to leave. If that happens to me as a cable subscriber and I have to leave, then the odds now of me going to another cable company or sticking around when I'm not happy with my service is just dramatically lower. So I think that that's something that they've got to be super conscientious about, is the quality of the experience that they're providing, to include things like customer service and value, and the propping up of, Dark Redeemer mentions that subs propped up by triple plays and stuff, which is something to think about. Like, how long is that structure going to work? And because again, once somebody realizes that, oh, that's only $30 a month per thing, and wait, I don't ever use my home phone anymore, why am I paying for that? Well, now I'm paying, instead of $90 a month for 3 things, I'm really only paying $90 a month for 2 things, and the value proposition dramatically changes. So I think that's something that they're going to start seeing in the middle tier of people, those that are not like older people like myself, like us, where we've had cable. Most of us have had cable for a large portion of our lives, and it becomes something that breaks the back, of the camel's back, that makes us give up cable. Like for me, it was just the price and having to deal with the change of the cable company with my internet, and I was just like, look, I'm changing internet because the internet has been so crappy with AT&T, so I'm going to go over to Time Warner and see if their internet's better. I'm not going to bother to pick up cable. Why? The value proposition isn't there. It's just too much effort to get a new cable subscription and set up all the DVRs and get them doing what I want. I'm just going to drop it. And so I did. And that was a great experience for me. And I'll never go back to cable because of that. But initially, they were keeping me on for a while because of the value proposition they got in that triple play. Well, it was actually a double play, but I got a significant discount to my cable. So, yeah, that's a good point. Those triple plays prop it up a little bit, but that value proposition falls really quickly once there's a problem.
Yeah.
And especially, I'll tack on to that, especially, if you're subscribing to Netflix already, you're subscribing to Hulu already, right? You got some streaming services already, right? So, like, take me for example, I recently cut the cord back in January, right? Before that, I had Hulu, I had Netflix, I had HBO Go, and I had cable. And I had my internet service through the cable company. And I gave all that up to go with a fiber service, right? And now, rather than paying, I don't know, with the cable and the internet and everything, I think I was paying about $130-something a month, maybe $140, right? Now I only pay about $87 a month, including tax, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I got all my streaming services there. So that's all I need. I don't need the cable at all.
Rock on. So, yeah, I think moral of the story, Netflix is now more popular than cable, and nobody is surprised.
Yep. And I think Joke Munn summed it up nicely in 2 words: size matters.
Size matters? It really does. That's good. All right. Well, there's one thing, we've been talking about all these new things that are coming to streaming, but we haven't really ever talked about news, really. Other than every once in a while I'll bring up that RT is available, and unfortunately that's someplace you kind of have to go sometimes, but yeah, so, who I don't know who suggested this, but definitely I think it's something we should talk about. How do you guys news? If you're cable or if you're streaming only, how do you news?
Well, I know that when I'm spending my time trying to relax after my long day, and I do want to catch up a little bit on the news. My primary source for news is, believe it or not, YouTube. I go ahead and get on YouTube. I get paid attention to a couple of the more interesting things that are on for as far as news stories go. I pick and choose a couple to watch. The other way I consume my news is with podcasts. So these two methods, I actually get most of my news. Now I'm still getting either my NBC or CBS or TNT or even Fox or whatever, or I don't usually get RT. Sorry, I just don't know why it doesn't pop up in my selections. But yeah, it seems like I'm getting the little bits of news I want to watch without the whole hour of waiting for the story I wanted to watch and commercials, because I'm paying for YouTube Red, which is awesome.
I still haven't tried that out.
I get it because we went for the family link of the Google Music, so I can give my son Google Music without the stinking commercials.
Mm-hmm.
So worth it because of the YouTube non-commercials thing.
Yeah.
Forget about the shows. They're not for our age group.
Yeah. Well, because I know, me personally, I see the most news Facebook and Twitter. Rule of thumb, figure out what everybody's screaming about on Facebook and Twitter, and then I know, okay, I'm in the opposite stance. And it's just good rule of thumb. Whatever they're screaming about, they're apparently wrong. So, yeah. And then you go to RT to find out what actually happened. But, no, what about you guys?
For me, I find, so there's a couple of things. First of all, I cheat. I use PlayStation View a fair amount.
That's not cheating.
What?
Well, if you're trying to claim being a cord cutter, then while it is a streaming service, it's effectively cable.
It doesn't matter,
in my opinion. So, I get some of the news channels there, but I think that you make a really good point about news, and I've actually been kind of like doing this informal poll with people that I meet that are cord cutters, or even just that have cable that are younger and maybe not consuming their news and their entertainment in the traditional fashion. And I think that I find probably at least half the time people respond with Twitter or other feed type solutions as their sources of news. Whether it be like an RSA feed of a podcaster or a blogger that they follow or whatever, they're consuming it in some sort of a non-video based stream, and then digging into the details of what they actually are most interested in. Still on, or am I just frozen?
You just cut out.
You
back.
Came back.
You cut out for a second or two there.
I blame DCTV bot.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have started railing against the establishment. That was not approved, sanctioned talk. So the NSA decided that it needed to be cut off. No, so I think that most people are, at least younger people, are consuming or getting their news and getting, at least hearing about things first, like you said, Clyde, through things like Twitter. And time and again, it's people say, oh, I just get it from my feed, and then I go dig into it if it's something that's interesting to me, whether they go to YouTube or, directly to a news website or something like that, or they've got a news app that they utilize. So.
That's true. The news apps is actually becoming a big deal. You do have Apple News, which is dominating a lot of the Apple users. Again, it's a siloed system. Any of us who are not in any kind of Apple ecosystem cannot read Apple News. But then you have Google News, which is the other one that most people are seeing as far as as a news aggregator that's pretty general to the public, of everybody kind of getting it. Because and I actually use Google News a lot just to get a real quick, what's going on today? Okay, none of that makes any sense to me. I'll figure it out later. Okay, so it's it seems like that we're kind of moving away from consuming news only in the one fashion, which is you either come home and you pull out your newspaper, thunk, and read it, or you turn on the TV at 6 o'clock and you get the evening news. So, which is good. So,
well, and
So,
like, I was gonna say, has anybody used that CNN Go?
Just the free bit you get for the 10 minutes is all.
I have a problem, and it's all me. It's all in my brain. But I have a problem I can't use, because every time I see the name, I see cn.ngo, which would be Cartoon Network non-governmental organization. But it's just because your brain is trained to look for the last three, and then you work backwards. So even though there is no dot, every time I see cn.ngo, it's cn.ngo. And then I get
hot dog, not a hot dog.
I get confused, and I mean, partly I've never liked CNN, but that just makes it even harder for me to. I don't want to be anywhere near it because it makes my brain hurt. So, yeah, they need to rethink their naming.
Yeah, for me, for what I watch. By the way, if you want like free streaming news 24 hours, CBS has a news app that you can download and put on a device and get it. Matter of fact, this morning when they had the shooting up in Washington D.C., I tuned into there to get the live feed, something going on right at the moment, right? And I think Twitter does that as well, right? But the CBS News app is what I use for live news if I want to see what's happening just at the moment. And that's free. Bloomberg, if you want financial news, Bloomberg streams for free. They have a free app too. They have both streaming as well as if you want to watch any back catalog of their regular shows that they have on there. You can watch it on demand, any of the regular shows that they have. The Bloomberg Technology is one that I watch on demand a lot of times. And then if I want international news, I tune into Sky News. Sky News has an app, and it too is free as well.
Has anybody been looking at Pluto TVs and their news offerings? It looks like they got a huge selection of TV offerings on there. I've used it for Cheddar and the tech news.
Cheddar is the one live channel that they have. The other channels are not live. They're like a rebroadcast, like it was on earlier in the day is typically what you'll see there.
If you want a constant stream and the ability to flip back and forth, Pluto's great for that.
Pluto is an excellent choice. Yeah, if you want like all the news in one app, if it's financial, regular news, international news, just go to Pluto. The only thing about Pluto though is you will get commercials, right?
Okay. Yeah, they got to make money somehow.
Yeah.
I accept your commercials because you are charging me nothing.
Yeah, it's when you charge me a ton and you give me commercials that I say,
You're right. And there are, of course, those various news channels out there that you can get if you're able to use some type of cable authentication. Now, the only one that I was able to come up with really quickly when making our list was Fox News Now or Fox News Go or whatever it's called. It requires a cable, and I loved it. You can go to their website. They got a video of how easy it is, and it says, first do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. And if you can't remember, call back your cable company and get your code.
See, but that is easy because last year it would have been 10 more steps.
Oh, man.
They reduced the hassle by 50%.
It still was crazy. I was like, this isn't that easy, guys.
I just find that I'm much happier when I'm not watching the news. Life isn't so bleak and people aren't so horrible when you don't have someone constantly telling you that it is.
Well, but there's other news out there. For example, I've been watching E3 this week. Not all of it. I haven't been catching it live. A lot of it I've been catching up after it. But I've been catching some of it live. And that's fun, and it's good to watch that stuff and be able to see the chat room and have the whole experience going on. I think that that's the kind of stuff that people, this is the kind of stuff that will spring up all over the internet. I think more than just these specific shows. We're going to see more like this show. But okay, and there's one other one I can think of that I don't know if we hit. Did we hit Twitter? Twitter's trying.
I talked about it a little bit in passing, but
that's right. Twitter is trying to be
Twitter TV.
to be the real streaming services, which includes tweeting that. So I have not paid any attention to it because I've basically taken myself off of all things Facebook and Twitter because, like you're disliking it, I'm just completely going without.
Yeah, and I mean, from what I've seen on Twitter, there's potential, but the content isn't there right now.
Okay.
The stuff you find is so heavily biased in one way or another, it's almost unwatchable. Even if you agree with the person, you're like, this is unwatchable.
Yeah.
But it's not Twitter's fault. It's just the fact that there's a lack of content, you know?
Right.
At some point when they actually have content you can choose from where you're not stuck just watching every video they have, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say if you want free live streaming news, just download the CBS app. For domestic news, I think that's the best one out there.
I mean, because if you're going to use your phone or a tablet, you've got nearly unlimited choices. But when you're looking at your streaming boxes, it's a lot more slim pickings. It's getting better day by day. But you're still kind of best on your streaming devices to go with something like Pluto or one of the other streaming services that offers packages like YouTube Live or Sling, PlayStation, that kind of thing. But then you're getting back into as Mike said, back into a cable-ish territory. So
yeah.
But worst comes to worst is always Pluto TV.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, there's an interesting chat conversation going on with Jokeman saying, why don't they already know that I'm at home where I have a cable connection? I'm using my cable connection to make my connection to the internet. Why can't you have a database of IPs from my different cable companies so you don't have to authenticate me? And I agree with that, but of course, Michael, you make a valid point.
Will come, but
cable companies can't find their.
That will come, but that would fall under Internet of Things, IPv6, where your cable box will have its own public IP address, along with your toaster and your refrigerator. You want hackers to know that you're washing whites and that they change that's coming, and that'll come at the same time. And the problem is those. The authentications are probably going to get worse rather than better, even when they have more information. Because that's just the way it is. People don't want to run the risk of letting someone in easily.
I mean, ultimately the thing is that these people aren't these companies. They're not technology companies. They're utility companies, and like I said in the chat, they don't even have integrated enough systems for them to be able to figure out that they shouldn't spend $30 a year mailing you something every week to get you to buy cable from them when you're already a cable subscriber. I mean, yeah, they're not technology companies. They're utility companies. They put cable in the ground and they run it to your house, and it gives you internet, or it gives you TV. So while it is simple for a technology company to do that,
I got an ad for CenturyLink when I just set up CenturyLink it's for the address I just set up CenturyLink. They're trying to sell
exactly, yes.
Yeah,
I'm already paying you. Stop spending money to get me to pay you. Especially when they're advertising something lower than what you're paying, right? These kinds of things happen all the time, and it takes a lot of technological infrastructure to be able to do that. It's not difficult, but it takes stuff that they don't have and integrated systems which they don't have, and that's the barrier. It would be really easy for a tech company to come in and do all of that for them.
But you got to remember that if they were to stop mailing you that stuff and start using common sense, the post office would start screaming because they depend on that revenue. Junk mail is the only thing that keeps the post office open. It's only thing preventing it from having to be privatized.
Well, no, the only thing that keeps it open is your tax money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But without the junk mail, it would be hard to justify the tax money to keep them open to do nothing. So
I've often thought, to put two mailboxes out in front of my house and put a tag on one of them, say junk mail here, regular mail here, and see what the man would do.
And the junk mail one is attached directly to your recycling bin.
Your recycle bin.
Recycling bin.
Because that's what it does. That's why I have a P.O. box. Because it takes me like 2 steps. I go check it once a month. And I go through there and I pull out the 1 or 2 things I actually want, and then the rest of it just goes straight in the trash, and I walk out. And I don't have to throw it. I don't deal with it. But that's beside the point. So back to news. Were there any other final thoughts? Anybody in the chat? You got anything that any news services that we overlooked that definitely should be checked out, or do they all suck? What do you think?
I think that that most of these, it's just, I think they're mostly kind of on the regular. They've been doing that. Nothing has changed here, really. Not except for the fact that now that if you look at the news like I do, I can pick out the specific stories and watch that and be done. Mm-hmm. It's still, you're watching an hour of news, if just depending on who's telling it to you and how you're getting it is just over a different medium. Not much has really changed there. The podcast is another thing that's changed it, so I'm happy about that because I can get up in the morning and I will have a little 5-minute thing that gives me the morning's news, and that's it. Just 5 minutes worth of news, and I'm done, and that's all the news I need for the morning of the day. So,
I'd have to disagree with you a little bit there.
Okay.
I feel like it has changed. And this is, for me, having just like recently gone through this experience of how am I going to consume my news, not being very happy with any of the news that I consume via PlayStation View or regular TV channels. I find it really interesting to start looking at some of the alternatives. And so that's where I think it's different. I think that if you look back just 5 or 10 years, your way of consuming news was your local channels and your 24-hour broadcast news from your cable company. And while there was variety, there was a Fox News and a CNN, to get the different perspectives, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. There was not really variety. There was the American liberal and the American conservative, and some people that tried to be a little bit in between, but more or less those were your options. I feel like now we have a lot of options. You can get RT, you can get Sky News, you can get just a variety of news from all over the world, and see not just a different political perspective, but a totally different social perspective. Somebody that's doesn't necessarily have a huge vested interest in the politics of the United States from a, what's my senator going to do level, but from a, how does this impact the world level, mm-hmm. from the outside of the United States. So I think that's really interesting. I think you get a little bit more variety, a little bit more, a different view. Still, it's not unbiased. There's no such thing as unbiased news, but it is a very different perspective than we get when we watch news in America.
Yeah. Well, one news channel I would say is, different from the others would be Cheddar, right? Cheddar is a little bit different. I think it's mostly, if you look at Cheddar, most of the anchor people there are millennials, right? And you get news from the millennial point of view. And they don't sit there and talk just, 7 days a week, 365 days a year about what the next election is going to be about, right? So they actually talk about other things that are newsworthy, right? So there are some places that are trying to break the trend. But then again, you look at a lot of the other news channels and news outlets and all, they are clinging to the same old stuff, like what Matt was saying. All right. But some of them are changing, and I think eventually it will.
Okay.
Or I hope so.
Yeah. All right. Should we? We're getting really close, so we should probably wrap this thing up.
Yep.
And if you guys have any, if there's something that we completely missed the mark on, or we, or something that should be added that we should, mention next week, send us a message on Twitter or to email. And with that, let's move on. Rants and raves.
Oh, yeah.
Who wants to take it away?
I'll start. So last several rants and raves have been pretty focused on one thing, and this one is also focused on that same thing. I've been spending all my spare time when I'm not sleeping, eating, working, or spending time with the family. Recently has been spent playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. I am happy to announce that I have quote unquote beaten the game. I would not call it completedly. I would not call it in any way, shape, or form kind of me kind of being an excellent expert at the game or anything like that. But I have completed it, and I can now put the game down and get back to regular scheduled programming, because that sucked up almost 100 hours to play that game. Nice. It's fun. I still recommend it for anybody. If you want to see a only minorly spoiler version review of what the game and my thoughts on it, you can go check it out at talking-nerdy.com. I've got a little thing on there. Yeah.
Cool. I'll follow that with my own video game related rant and rave. So I've got a few. The first one that I want to rave about is Skyrim. Everybody that has played role-playing video games in the last 10 years has played Skyrim, I think. But if you haven't, you should. It's still a great game. Pick it up and play it. It's a lot of fun. I played it through a long time ago, shortly after it came out, and have just picked it back up, and I'm playing through it again and still really enjoying the heck out of it. Are the graphics the greatest, the newest? No, but they're still enjoyable enough to enjoy. However, that leads me to my rant. When you write a program, a video game, please don't be silly. Don't constrain the game to what you are aware of right now. Skyrim does not support ultra-wide monitors, period. So I have an ultra-wide 34-inch monitor, and it just does not like that.
Wow.
The people are like half again as wide as they're supposed to be.
So it doesn't do a standard 16:9 ratio, but you're doing like 21:9 or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're like a third wider than they're supposed to be. However, my next rave. To all of the hackers out there, thank you very much for hacking together solutions. And I found, with the addition of 3 plugins, was able to get Skyrim to actually function properly on my 34-inch monitor. So if you do happen to have an ultra-wide and have been wanting to play Skyrim, you just get flawless widescreen. You get the Skyrim script extender for Steam. It's assuming you have Steam Skyrim. And a few other items, and you end up with an actually usable system.
There's been a fix for this for a while. And it works up to like 70, 80 inches. It's called a console. I've only played it on the 360, so.
Or you could just buy the Xbox version. However, I wonder how the Xbox One version would work on an ultra wide screen monitor, because I've never tried hooking my Xbox up to an ultra wide, and you can't go in and hack the INI file in that. So I don't know if it would scale correctly. But like I said, great game, worth a lot of fun. If you have an ultra wide monitor, you're going to have to jump through some hoops, but awesome hackers out there have provided solutions for you. This is where cracking systems is beneficial and only beneficial. It doesn't hurt the company or anything like that. They just provided solutions, and so I love hackers. Keep on hacking. Just be nice about it.
For those of you that haven't played, word to the wise: be very careful about who you bump into and accidentally almost kill. Because if that person was part of a quest, you're screwed. That person will be mad at you forever, and you will never complete that quest. And you just wasted 5 hours to start all over again.
Yes.
And that's why I've never gone back to play that game.
Oops.
So, well, the dude walked in front of me, and I turned around, and I bumped him, and he fell down, and then he was mad at me, and it was like,
yeah. It is one of those, like, unfortunately, they don't provide any protections for anybody, so you're running through a cave, and you've got a guy that's like a critical mission and he gets in your way while you're attacking, you might hit him.
Yep.
And fortunately, at the very beginning in that opening sequence, they make the guy so much more powerful than you that you can't kill him. But he would be totally dead if he was like my level and it just playing, because he kept running in front of my arrows and stuff. And but it's fun. It's a really enjoyable game. Very open world. It's really easy to get lost and never complete the game, as is kind of standard fare for all of your Elder Scrolls games, but this was a really good one, and it's worth spending some time in if you like role playing games.
Well, rock on. What about you, Jimmy?
My raves for this week. If you guys have not watched the Netflix original Bloodline, I highly recommend adding that to your queue. Bloodline. Netflix original. I didn't watch it when it first came out. I think they have three seasons out right now, and me and my wife are now into the second season. And oh my goodness, this show. I would say plot wise, it kind of goes along a similar, not exactly the same plot, but the similar style of plot, I guess I should say, like Breaking Bad, right? So, if you enjoyed Breaking Bad, you probably will enjoy Bloodline.
I thought Bloodline was like a zombie kind of one of those. Oh.
No, not at all.
Oh,
and
I thought it was like a
takes
vampire thing, but
no. It takes place down in the Florida Keys, right? That's the setting, and
a lot of weirdos living down there in Florida.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to spoil any of it for you, but for any of you guys or any of you guys out in the chat room, if you subscribe to Netflix, definitely add Bloodline to your queue. And the other thing I want to mention as well, I got my parents coming to visit soon. Week after next, they're going to be here visiting, and of course, I don't have cable. Right. So
what are you gonna do?
So I mean that's the thing is like so what am I gonna do? So what I thought I would do is give the Hulu Live TV a try, right? Give it a try. That way my mom can watch her soaps, right, and that kind of thing, and Dad can watch whatever he wants, live there and all. So. So I'm going to give it a try, see how it does, and I'll definitely report back how I like it.
Rock on.
Cool.
All right, and then go
ahead. I was just looking at Bloodline, so it looks like the last season's out now, so 3 seasons it's done, but looks pretty cool. 33 episodes, and are those an hour long each, or what were they?
Yeah, I think they kind of vary a little bit. Some will be, an hour. Some will be a little over an hour. That kind of thing.
See, and that's the thing I really like about streaming originals is there is no reason that they have to conform to a specific time frame.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because you're not trying to finish before something else can start and then pack commercials in there. So it can be long, it can be short. I like that.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and I will say that it does. The first couple episodes is a little slow because it's introducing you to the characters and that kind of thing. But there'll be little snippets in the first couple of episodes that'll kind of catch you, like, "Oh, what is this?"
Okay.
Right? Because they kind of give you a little glimpse into the future is what they'll do, right? And so the first episode you'll probably find it a little slow. I did, but. But you start seeing the plot building, even in the first episode, and so definitely add it to your queue, give it a watch, and then let me know what you think.
Rock on. And then I have an original as well that kind of surprised me. Right before the show, I threw on there was a show on Hulu original called Becoming Bond. And I went, it's the story of George Lazenby, the one hit wonder James Bond. And so I threw it on to kill some time while I was doing other stuff. And it was really funny. That guy is hilarious. And he basically was narrating his life. They got some really big names that, some people that I recognized throughout doing the dramatization stuff, under his voice. And I recommend it. If you have any affinity towards James Bond at all, I highly recommend watching Becoming Bond. For those that you don't know, he was the first Bond replacement directly following Sean Connery in '68. So that would have been Her Majesty's Secret Service.
One and only movie he did.
What's that?
The one and only Bond movie he did.
Yep, and he explains why he didn't do more. Apparently, I didn't know they offered him $1 million and 6 more movies.
Right.
And
they wanted him to
said,
start. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Exactly.
And he walked away. And
good for him.
So rock on. Check that out. Hulu original. And it is a documentary with a cameraman and someone interviewing him, but the person interviewing only kind of butts in a couple times, and it was very well worth it. But for the most part, it's just him telling the story, and it cuts back and forth between the dramatization and him right now telling his story. And it was very well done. It sucked me in. So
cool.
All right. I'm just looking at Jotemon's complaints.
Yeah,
Jotemon,
he's been complaining a lot this episode.
Put it in the box with all the round file.
There you go.
2% small.
Jotemon, if you can do it better, you're welcome to produce the episodes. So, all right. Hey, thank you guys so much for hanging out. All of you out there, thanks again. We will be back next week, as every week, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central, Diamond Club TV. Otherwise, you can find us after the fact on YouTube. Search for The VOD Squad, because we don't have our vanity URL. We need subscribers. If you know anybody that has not subscribed, log into their accounts and subscribe. After that's only if they say no. Then log into their accounts. But if they'll do it, rock on.
Awesome.
Then, and this Saturday is the movie party. So 9 p.m. Central on Saturday. It will be an old sci-fi movie. We haven't decided. We'll probably pick that here after the show. But tune in. We'll probably end up doing 2 of them because they are usually fairly short. So Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central, Diamond Club TV. Come join us, and we will have a good old time watching movies and talking crap. All right.
It's always fun. It's always fun to go on those.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I'm going to get out of here. We will check you later. Bye.
Later, guys.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.